KJ Hill, touchdown, Buckeyes.
To see the way that we finished, and I don't know who's got a better resume than we and the entire country, and the way we played from front to bottom. But I think we deserve to be number one in the country.
Welcome into a special college football playoff edition of The Big Show. Ryan Day, for what it's worth, I believe you do deserve to be ranked number one. My opinion doesn't count. The College Football Playoff Committee's does. And the CFP committee says Ohio State is the number 2 team in the country. The Buckeyes will face Clemson in the CFP semifinal to be played on the 28th of December, officially the Fiesta Bowl out in Tempe. Welcome into this edition of The Big Show. Rick Pease and Nicole Auerbach, Glen Mason and Jay Lehman alongside. Thoughts from everyone coming up on the big decision that Ohio State is number 2, not number 1. What does that mean for the Buckeyes? It means a matchup with the Clemson Tigers in the semifinal. Everyone wanted to avoid Clemson. 13-0. Dabo Swinney complaining for the past month the Tigers have not gotten enough respect. They've played remarkably well over the last 7 weeks, just absolutely dirt-rolled Virginia, as Jay Lehman said in the pre-show meeting. Probably could have put 80 on the Cavs if they wanted to.
Absolutely.
They scored 62. They made it look easy. There are no other surprises involved in who makes up the Final Four. LSU jumped Ohio State into the number 1 spot. We assume it's because of the way they played, specifically defensively against Georgia in the SEC championship game, also against Texas A&M the week prior, though we will have plenty of discussion about the committee's decision to jump LSU over Ohio State. And that means that LSU will face the number 4 team in this year's playoff, the Oklahoma Sooners. Everything went Oklahoma's way late in the year. Baylor got a huge jump, so their win over the Bears in the Big 12 title game counted for more. Plus, Utah's loss in the Pac-12 championship game to Oregon opened up the spot for Oklahoma. So here you go. Your college football playoff circa 2019, and this doesn't go into 2020 until the national championship game, because remember, the semifinals this year, December 28th, not January 1st. LSU, Oklahoma, that will be in Atlanta as the Peach Bowl. Ohio State, Clemson out in the desert as the Fiesta Bowl. Katie Witham has the first initial reaction from Columbus, catching up with Buckeye cornerback Jeff Okudah.
Thanks, Rick. Well, Jeff, you just found out you are the number 2 seed headed into the college football playoffs. What was your reaction?
I think guys were a little bit disappointed that we were number 1 with all the work that we put in, but when we thought about the challenge that Clemson was going to be, everyone was just kind of really got excited.
And this is a team that you know well from the past couple of years. What kind of challenge does Clemson present with what you've seen from them this year so far?
They're a really complete team, well-rounded, well-coached. So I know that when talent equates, it's just about who's more disciplined and who can execute better.
Got to talk to Coach right after the announcement. What was his message to you guys?
His message was just that we've been kind of the underdogs this whole season. Guys always have not tried to give us our respect. So that game against Clemson will be a really good chance to earn our respect.
Appreciate the time today. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you so much.
Now, listen, I don't really understand that mindset. I feel like Ohio State has gotten a lot of respect nationally, but they don't get the respect. Final rankings from the College Football Committee to be number 1. That goes to LSU. You agree or disagree with that decision?
So this is what I thought that they were going to do. I thought that the committee was going to go with LSU because of the way the games played out. The one thing Ohio State had in its advantage here was that it was a complete team. It was really, really good defensively. And we had seen LSU get gashed by Ole Miss and Alabama in those 2 games. And that's about the time that Ohio State moved up to number 1. I felt that the way that they beat Georgia and the way that Ohio State struggled for much of the game against Wisconsin, that this was a possibility. And to know after the fact here that Georgia was the team in contention for that 4 spot just shows how much a win over a Georgia team meant to the committee.
Yeah, tough decision. I really thought it would be Ohio State. And, you know, my thought process was when you looked at the schedules and you looked at Ohio State, they played 9 conference games where LSU only played 8. And LSU also played an FCS opponent. I thought that would have been, frowned upon. But it was tough, and it was hard to get a consensus of opinion, even in our room. And most people said, well, it might be LSU. It might be Ohio State. I I have a feeling inside that meeting room for the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, they had a hard time of getting a consensus. But, Rick, I disagree with you on one thing. You said everybody was trying to avoid Clemson. Ed Orgeron said, I don't care who we play.
I'm not sure that I listened to everything that Coach O says.
That's what he said publicly.
Publicly. Yeah, that's right.
Publicly.
Coach, you know how hard it is, though, down the stretch to play back-to-back-to-back tough opponents, right? They did something, Ohio State did something that no other team's done since Auburn in the mid-'80s with Bo Jackson. 3 AP top 10 teams in a row. Penn State, Michigan was ranked in the AP top 10, and then they beat Wisconsin in the championship game, a rivalry game mixed in. Your best player gets hurt against Penn State, aggravates it against Michigan. He's not 100% against Wisconsin, and still they find a way to win. That's tough to do, and they did it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jay. Here's my counter to the argument about moving LSU up because of improved defense. Georgia's offense is not a world beater. They've struggled offensively all year. They were without some of their best offensive players in the SEC championship game. So LSU is being given credit for having a better defense late in the year. But we've heard all year, we've heard since the College Football Playoff Committee was formed, it's about the body of work.
Right.
It is about 13 weeks. It's not about the last 2 weeks. I don't understand how the committee can use the logic that after a win over Penn State, Ohio State then has the best body of work. And then you drop 50-plus against the top 10 Michigan team to back that up and strengthen your case. Then you go and beat a Wisconsin team, to your point, Jay, a third consecutive week against a top 10 opponent by scoring nearly 40 again against one of the nation's top defenses. To me, there is no logical reason why at this point you then leapfrog LSU over Ohio State.
And I agree. I think I personally would put Ohio State at number 1 and keep them there, but I can see how the committee was setting this up. The way that they've talked about Georgia the whole season and the way they've talked about their defense, there was a ton of respect. We use the eye test as kind of a catch-all, but also the statistics back that up. So you could just tell that the committee was going to be able to value a win over Georgia in a way that that was going to be different than the way the Big Ten championship game could be valued. One thing that I also think is important to mention here, guys, we talk about non-conference strength of schedule. How about that Ohio State's all non-conference opponents were in conference championship games? That hasn't come up at all.
Right.
Yeah. Rick, I'm with you on that body of work, and you talk about that, but I'm also aware that, the college football people are human. They live in the moment. And I was even saying yesterday, so even with all this data and everything they looked at, here they are. They're sitting in front of their TVs just like everybody else, and they're watching one game. And here they have LSU playing Georgia, who they have number 4. And to your point, think they have the greatest, toughest defense that maybe Georgia's ever had in the outcome. And right away, they're going to make a knee-jerk reaction and forget about the body of work.
So basically what you're doing is you're saying because Joe Burrow tore up that defense and because Ohio State had a sluggish first half, not an entire game, a sluggish first half against Wisconsin, you punish a team that has accomplished what Ohio State has accomplished over the past 3 months. Again, to me, makes no sense.
Well, one of the criteria is relevant injuries. Now, to your point, Rick, Georgia was banged up. Not just at receiver. Jake Fromm was limping the entire game, it seemed like, with a bum ankle. What about Justin Fields? He certainly wasn't 100%, didn't practice during the week, according to Ryan Day, was rusty in the first half, and they had no quarterback run game.
None.
We've seen him in the quarterback run game against good opponents in the red zone. Been a huge thing, 15 to 20 carries a game against Michigan, against Penn State. That wasn't even in the game plan.
And now you have 3 weeks to rest Justin Fields up to hopefully get him, back to where he wants to be, to Ryan Day being able to call the plays he wants to play. So it is Ohio State and Clemson, regardless of my disagreement with the committee. And again, I understand it was probably as razor thin as 1 and 2 have ever been. But it's Ohio State and Clemson. You see the comparison for 2 teams set to play in the Fiesta Bowl on December the 28th. Remarkably similar when you look at these numbers. To stop that Clemson offense, you need outstanding defenders. Guys like Chase Young, who's standing by with Katie Witham.
Thanks, Rick. Well, Chase, you just found out you are the number 2 seed headed into the college football playoffs. What was your reaction?
Just grateful for the opportunity. We're going in, we're going to play a real good Clemson team. And, they're going to play a real good Ohio State team. And, like I always said, the best man win.
It had to be Clemson, right? Again, it had to be Clemson. What have you seen from them so far this season? What are your impressions of this matchup?
Powerful offense, great quarterback, great running back. They have a real good defense. real good linebacker. I know of. You know, they're definitely a well-coached team and a team we're going to have to be prepared for.
What is going to be the biggest challenge with this matchup, and what is the focus as you guys do prepare for it?
Well, I'm not sure yet. You know, we just came out with the rankings, so, you know, now these next couple of days, the coaches are going to put together the game plan, and, you know, we're just going to have to capitalize.